Good morning. Welcome to the Board for Professional Engineers, Land Surveyors, and Geologists Board meeting. Today is April 3rd, and the time now is 9:03, April 3rd, 2025. So that just to clarify. And so we're in Sacramento, and welcome for those on WebEx. And we'll have Selena to help us establish a quorum. Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here. Present. Present.
Here.
Thank you very much. And now we'll have Mr. Guillermo Martinez to help us lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, liberty and justice.
Thank you very much. Now the next agenda item is public comments for items not on the agenda. And please note that each person will have 5 minutes for the comments, right? That's accurate, right? 5 minutes. And the board is not allowed to have discussion during those items. And so I think we can start with here. Any public comments for items not on the agenda? Seeing none here. Moderator, would you please open WebEx to see if there are any people want to make a comment?
WebEx is now open for items not on the agenda. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand. And for our mobile device users, you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... and cycle through the 3 different pages in order to find your hand. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment for items not on the agenda. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you. So the next agenda item is administration. We're going to talk about the fiscal year 2024 to 25 budget report. And is Dawn. I'm really trying hard not to mix up the names. Yes. So page 14 of your board material.
Good morning. My name is Dawn Hall. I'm here to give you the financial report. As Mr. Moore noted, you can find the revenue report on page 14 in the board materials. Our total revenue is just about $10.2 million at FM8. That's ahead of the comparable prior fiscal year 22-23. This is again a low volume year for renewals, and so we're down as compared to last year. But we're at almost 90% of the full year revenue projections. The expenses are on page 15. There's a slight increase in the total full year projections, and we're continuing to monitor an increase in OAH expenses. The slight change in the fund condition on page 16, but the months in reserves are holding at 1.6 months. Be happy to answer any questions.
Why not?
I only have a couple of opportunities left. So on the expenses, just noticed kind of jumped out at me, big increase or kind of non-budgeted expenses in IT. And also kind of facilities generally. Just wondering if you could just address those two items.
I will have to take that and come back to you. I'm not certain why facilities is up. It could be, I don't think it's related to the improvements that we made anymore.
Okay. I have one more shot, one more bite at the apple, so. And then the other question is just kind of a standard question I ask almost every time. With anticipated reversions, where do we expect the 25, 26 months in reserve to be? Hopefully not negative.
So the budget year 25, 26, that's on the expenses that are on the fund condition that's included in your packet are the full appropriations and not our projections. That should come down. It's anywhere between $1 to $2 million a year in reversions. And you can see that our expenses in the last fiscal year were under 11.5, and they only jumped to 12.2, our projections for this fiscal year. So that's well under the appropriations amount that's reflected on the fund condition. So we're expecting $1 to $2 million, which would put us,
In the black.
well, yeah.
Okay. Instead of 14.8. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that would be fun. All right. Thank you.
I have one not as controversial question like Hobie's. So go back to page 14, the total reimbursements. So that $83,000, so is that included in the line items above? Or is it just a different category of the revenues?
So the fingerprints, I think is the 83,000 that you're referring to. And that is included as an expense in general expense. So that nets out. Does that answer your question?
Yes. So, okay, now that makes sense because it's what you spend, but then you get the money back. So,
Right.
yeah.
We collect it as revenue because it's a fee. I try to explain it like sales tax. So you collect it if you're a retailer or wholesaler, you collect the sales tax, but then you have to pay it. So we collect the background fees and then we have to remit those to TOG.
Yes. So it's like a passing through thing. Yeah. Yeah.
If I can clarify that. So is another way of thinking about that, where it says other revenue, 162,000, is that 83,000 is that that's part of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Thank you. What?
Mm-hmm. So the amount in the current year for IT, which is 123, does reflect the full contract values. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Board
And that
members. Oh,
Some, all of the BMC contracts, plus the reporting contracts. Yeah. Mr. King, were you concerned about that because it's higher than the last year? The last year actual, or?
Yeah, I mean, we budgeted less than $100,000 for it this year. I know that in past years, we've had significant and justifiable IT expenses with, the app. But yeah, 318 does seem like a lot, given our budget and what we have spent in past years, and just wondering what that's for, since, I mean, I don't know, sometimes you have to replace computers and things like that, but.
No, actually, I think computers would be on the equipment line. That does just represent the full value of the contracts.
Uh-huh.
And if they didn't bill out last year, they could be billing out this year. That's the timing issue. We don't always get to control when vendors submit their invoices. So it could be from a contract that didn't bill last year, included, plus the full remainder of the contract.
Thank you. Just want to acknowledge the presence of royalty in the room now. Thank you.
thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Any other questions from board members? Okay. How about public in the room? Any comments for the administrative report? Seeing none. So, Mr. Moderator, would you please open WebEx for public comments?
We are open for public comment on agenda item 4. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you. So we're going to move to the enforcement report. Hi. Hi, Brooke. '21.
Starts on page 21. Thank you. I think you may agree that things are looking pretty good. I think that through the transition of management, staff is really working through cases well. Does anybody have any questions about them?
Yes. So I have a question. So, page 25, citations. I know that we talked about that forever and ever, about like the length of time. So, to the average days, from the investigation to citation become final. So I'm particularly looking at the graph on the lower right, the lower left. And so, understand all that, but when we look at the bar, 2021 to 22 to 2024 to 25, we almost close to double the dates, so it's it's, to me, it's a concern, especially talking about like a lot of unlicensed activities and stuff like that. And so anything that, that any area to improve the days and make it, probably a little bit shorter.
I think that there are probably a few factors, and Tiffany may want to weigh in here. There are a lot more citations being issued. You are all aware that we have had some staff issues. And then also, there are some of the citations have gone through very lengthy appeal process. And those will really drive that number up. And until we go through some more of those to bring it back down. And that's between. So. There. Here. I don't.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's understandable.
Christine?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, these numbers, and I think longtime members of the board know this, these numbers are, in a way, they're really trailing indicators. They're really more about, because remember that a case doesn't figure into this number until the thing at the end of the title, either the citation, until it becomes final, or until the site, in both cases, in both of these on page 25, until it becomes final, which is why I do think, and I know Tiffany made reference to this, that the horizontal chart on page 23 is probably, I think, more relevant because it's about open complaint investigation cases. I mean, yeah, I think that the ones on page 25 really demonstrate that we've had a bunch of cases in as Tiffany just said, we had a bunch of cases in 24, 25 that took a long time to get to final citation. But now that they're in there, they're now in the stats, and so that jumps the number up. So I don't know, it's almost a deceiving stat in some ways. Yeah.
Anytime.
Have we ever? Yeah, and the graphs on page 22 are similar, right? Except on a year-to-year basis because they're open. And those haven't shown a market increase over the last couple of years.
And the investigation, go ahead. I just have a irrelevant or relevant situation. So Rick, do you need to have a microphone so that WebEx can hear you? No?
I think this is.
They can't hear? They can't, yeah, so Rick, you need a microphone. I don't see you show up in the in the closed caption, that's why. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Yes, now you showed up, yes.
Much better.
Wonderful, thank you. So, board members, any questions about enforcement? All right, seeing none. Public comments in the hearing room here? Also, no comments. So, moderator, would you please open WebEx for public comments?
We are open for public comment on agenda item 5. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Brooke. So the next agenda item is examination and licensing. So examination and licensing updates. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Morning, everybody. My name is Larry Carest. I am the exam manager. And I have just a couple of items for you this morning. The first thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is just the spring 2025 examination administration that we're currently in the middle of. We had our geology exams already. The state geology exam was on March 4th, and then the national ASBOG exams were on March 20th and 21st. We have our state land surveyor exam next week on the 9th, and then our the NCES national exam. Their one-day exams will be on April 15th in 2 weeks. So that will conclude the spring administration, not including the continuous testing exams that we have. So we will have the exam results and the exam totals forthcoming. Once we have that in, we'll be sure to share that with you. Before I move over to the new test specs, I just wanted to see if there were any questions with anything about the administration, the spring administration.
Board member, any questions? No?
All right. And in our continuing efforts to have new test specs out, our penultimate one is the Certified Hydrogeologist exam. We have the new test specs that would go into effect in October of this year, and that is starting on page 29. So those are the new test specs, and we also have the changes that were also included there as well. I want to see if anybody has any questions or concerns about those test specs. And hopefully we're looking for adoption of or approval of those test specs today.
Board members, question about the test, the test plan.
Tragic that Betsy's not here.
I know.
I know.
Yes.
Actually, we ran these by Betsy and she had no comment. She said she didn't have any comment.
No
She said-
comments.
No comments. Green light from.
Yeah, she actually replied, I have no comments.
Yeah.
It's a
So I'm
good,
very excited about that.
yes, yes. Such a good thing. Right. Wonderful. So, let's see. Let's open for public comments and, and then we'll take action, right? We need a motion. Okay. So, public in the hearing room, any comments about the hydrogeologist examination test plan?
Matter of order, this is the moderator, David.
Yes.
Might I suggest that you make your motion before making before asking for public comment.
Oh, I can do that. I can do that. No problem. So any motion to adopt or not, the hydrogeologist examination test plan.
Move to approve.
Kobe first and second by Rosanna. Now we have motion on the floor. Again, let's open for the public comments in the hearing room here. Seeing none. All right. Moderator, your turn.
All right, we are open for public comment on agenda item 6 and the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you so much, moderator. So now we have the motion on the floor. I guess that we can go ahead and vote. We discussed. Yeah,
President Wong,
yes.
Vice President Martinez,
Yes.
Dr. Amistad.
Yes.
D'Antonio,
Yes.
Mr. Hartley, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Rufino,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Villegas. Motion carried.
Thank you so much. Good
All right.
job, Larry.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
Christine, please ask for public comment for the overall report about exams and licensing before we move on. Larry reported on exams.
Yes,
If you
okay.
could ask for public comment on that,
On
please.
the examination report.
Yes.
Yes, okay, let's do that. So let's open the floor again to talk about the, for the examination report. Yes,
Thank you, I appreciate it. All right, folks. Thank you. Michael Parolini, civil structural engineer here in California and many other states. Today, I sit before you representing SEOC, the Structural Engineers Association of California, and NCSEA, the National Council of Structural Engineers Associations. I know that moving to the CBT for the SE exam has been rocky, right? You know, we know, everybody knows it. It's why it was last. It's definitely a thing. But I wanted to come to you today just to clarify our position on the exam results. There's been a lot of things that have been come back to us to make sure that that aren't exactly what we believe. I wanted to be very clear that the Structural Engineers Association of California and NCSEA, we support any pass rate. We don't care that it's 0 or 100%, provided that the passers of that exam are minimally competent engineers. That's the goal. Okay? It could be all the way or none. If nobody is qualified, then nobody should get through. If everyone's qualified, everyone should get through. That's how the exam should work. Psychometricians figure that stuff out for us. We don't know that answer. The challenge comes when, based on the history and all the feedback we have from our memberships and beyond, right? We support in all of this staff's further involvement with NCES, right? To help make changes to the current system to be more of a test of the content of structural engineering and less of a testing environment. The challenge right now is it's not a reflection of people's knowledge. It's a reflection of, can you get through a single screen, so on and so forth. We know all the issues. That's the issue. Thank you.
no taken. Thank you very much. Yes,
The only thing I'll add to that is that since the last board meeting, there was an informal online call between the boards that license structural engineers, and NCWS exams chief was there. And Ollie and I both participate in that, plus Natalie King, our staff civil engineer, just to listen in and hear what was going on and participate. So there is, boards are discussing any concerns they're receiving. It seems to be similar concerns that they're receiving that Mr. Parolini is also expressing. We do know the NCWS is continuing to say they're trying to do whatever they can to make the exam experience better. And we expect that we will hear more reporting on this at the upcoming zone meetings and probably the annual meeting too. So I just wanted to update you on that.
It's good to know that California is not the only one experiencing the similar issues. Yeah. And so definitely an area for NCES to address.
Now, I would actually say, in some respect, from the board's perspective, we're probably seeing less of an impact. I'm not saying we don't disagree or agree with what the comments are coming in. We understand there could be hurdles and issues when introducing a new exam to a computer-based format. As Mr. Parolini mentioned, taking a structural exam, the complexity of that just adds on to that. I would say that we are probably seeing a little bit less of an impact only because we believe that our candidates are more used to computer-based testing formats, being that they've already had to be tested as a civil and two state civil exams of computer-based testing. They've already gone through the fundamentals. They've already gone through the national civil exam. So generally speaking, our candidates are more used to that format, that environment. I'm not trying to lessen the concerns, but I think we see a little less of that impact.
Any comments from board members, feedback?
Just a little comment about the what Mike had mentioned about content versus the challenging environment. How do we evaluate or analyze those qualities of a challenging environment, Rick, versus knowledge of content, which is based on academic aptitude and ability and training?
Well, it comes to our attention in a couple different ways. It comes to our attention from individuals like Mr. Parolini. It comes to our attention when candidates express their concerns to us. When it's an NCWS exam, we tend to pass those concerns on to NCES so that they can address them directly. But we do like receiving those, hearing those concerns so that we're aware of it. The other side of the equation is NCWS will let us know when there's issues and concerns. We do that in various different ways. Zone meetings, annual meetings. We'll hear about it in the State of the Union calls, but a little bit lesser so with those. State of the Union, sorry, State of NCWS, State of the Council, it's not State of the Union. But more importantly, we do have individuals that are involved with the board that actually work on the exams or are involved in the committees. And that's how we also hear a little bit more about where the issues are. When it's less about the content and more about the experience. I don't like the size of the monitor. It was hard to read, switching between reference material and content or graphics. Those are the kind of things that can be worked on by NCES and be worked on with their examination vendor. And they generally will report to the board some of the changes that they're doing to accommodate that. It's not something that happens overnight. When you're talking about nationwide types of things, especially if the impact is one monitor versus two monitors, and you're talking 300 computer-based testing centers across the nation. There's a different. The things will happen not overnight, but they will evaluate and have those changes. We know the discussions we have with our vendor for our state exams, so that's how we hear about it. I wouldn't say we're less concerned about it when it's the environment versus the content, because we want to make sure that it's the appropriate environment. These people already come in stressed. They already come in with high anxiety. It's more about the content for us. We want to make sure it's the appropriate content. And that could lead to poor pass rates, unnecessarily poor pass rates, or in some cases, unnecessarily high pass rates. So we do kind of monitor it, but that's how we generally do it. We see it.
Okay. Makes sense. Just a curiosity, when they take the test and they press the final enter, are they given an instant grade evaluation of whether they passed or not at that instant of time, or do they have to wait for some time to get the results?
In our exams for engineering and surveying and geology, they do not get instantaneous results. The only exams you'll see that in is, and it's not in our industries, it's industries where the population is huge. So for instance, the fundamentals of engineering, the NCAA puts out, it's about 50,000 people taking it a year. You would consider that huge. They do get the results every week. Every week results come out for the preceding week. That still is not as huge as some of the populations that are out there in other industries, other professions. So it's more of the size of the population and the content matter. If it's continuing education type exam or refresher type exam, that's where you'll see more of the instantaneous results versus the type exams that we do. Yeah. So within case of the structural one, there's portions of it currently that are offered on a continuous basis and a couple portions that are only offered twice a year. So it depends when, but it's generally about a 30 to 60 day lag time right now, I believe.
Okay. Thank you.
Good comments. Any other comments from board members? No. Should I open WebEx again? Yes. Okay. Moderator, would you please open WebEx for public comments on item 6A?
All right, we are open for public comment on 6A. My apologies, go ahead.
Oh, no. It's just Ray talking to me, so go ahead.
All right, 6A, if you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no requests, you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you very much. So we talked about 6A and 6B. So now we're going to move on to 6C, which is the elimination of the Sonoma State Geology Program. And here comes Josh.
So I'll start out a little bit with this. Josh is really the main person with this situation. As the board heard at the last board meeting, we heard public comment about concerns about the university cutting back on multiple programs at Sonoma State, including the geology program. The board asked to bring this up on an agenda to discuss at this next meeting, which we were planning on putting on the agenda. But since that meeting, Josh had a prearranged outreach event at Sonoma State. So he asked me to tag along, and I was happy to do that and got to meet the professors and many of the students there. And we came away with that with understanding a certain deadline. And the concerns that Josh and I walked away with, just to summarize it from my perspective, was how this could impact the number of applicants coming in and then lessen the number of geology licensees we'd be putting out there, and the concern that this would proliferate across multiple universities and multiple campuses, not just this one. So that's why we talked to Christina and we said we need to put a letter out before the next board meeting. And she worked with Josh and I to get this letter together. And hopefully you like the letter. She's the one who signed it. But we really tried to advocate for the impact this would have on licensing and consumers having availability of geologists, licensed geologists. And Josh, I'll hand it over to you because you know a lot more about what's going on here.
Well, that was a pretty good summary. So I could just open it up to questions if you guys have any questions about this issue.
Yeah, I just had one. We did hear the plea from one of the professors, I think, at our last board meeting. What came about from that? Were you able to meet with the gentleman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, as Rick said, we went down there and I had a prearranged outreach. So I'd talk about the pathway to licensure, and one of those main hurdles for students is getting all of the coursework requirements that are very specific in our regulations. One of the biggest hurdles for students is the field geology. It requires a month out basically camping, driving around, mapping, doing lots of things out in the field. It's expensive, and not every university has a field requirement for their degree. Some are Bachelor of Arts, some are Bachelor of Science. So it's kind of all over the place, which is why the regulations were put into place. But now applicants come in and I have to say, well, this is deficient. You don't have a field class. You have to go find a university that will accept you. That's a big challenge. If you're not in their degree program, they don't want to let you in. So there's lots of issues for them. But yeah, so that's the gist of kind of the issue of Sonoma State has a really good field program, and that's going away. I think they have a year, three of the professors got to be able to continue on for one more year as kind of a teach out plan for any seniors that are already in the program or juniors. They can finish their degree there. But then there was an article recently, May 27th, in the San Francisco Chronicle, I believe, talking about Cal East Bay and San Francisco State and possibly Sonoma State merging administrative duties. I don't know what that means for the other presidents of those, but there's issues that I'm seeing all over the state, all over the country with other professors I've spoken with my ASBOG network. There's lots of programs, geology programs are merging with like a physics department or a geography department, sometimes in environmental studies, not environmental science, but environmental studies. And so things tend to get watered down. You lose certain professors with expertise that could teach things like field or engineering geology. And so the students coming out of those universities will not qualify for licensure. So it's happening nationwide. It's not just in California. California budget cuts. I was down in San Bernardino in March, and they're having strategy meetings on how to defend their department. Today, the GSA conference is in Sacramento, and professors from all over the kind of the western region of the U.S. are meeting, talking about how to defend their programs to administrators and how to recruit students to get numbers in, to keep their programs going. So the geosciences is under a lot of pressure, and our regulations are going to make it very hard for people to get licensed in California. Other states are kind of how our regs used to be, a degree in geology or closely related, 30 units, that type of thing, and then you qualify. Here, it's like, sorry, you're missing field, you're missing one class, you're missing one unit, you don't qualify. It's definitely a barrier to licensure that we're seeing that I think was unexpected when the regs came out in 2018 for the education. And so that's kind of the issue here.
I'd like to add a little bit to something Josh is saying there, is because the geology and the geophysicists, both of those are kind of hand in hand here, those are our only two license types that we require a degree for initial licensure. If they're missing that one or two classes, the additional issue with that, with what Josh is kind of alluding to, is the way our laws are written, is you can't count your work experience until after you've completed your education. So now picture someone who has come out from one of the various flavors of the geology educational program. They have their 30 units, let's say, but they don't have the field class, or what's the other one that's important?
Structural geology,
Structural.
I see a lot.
Yeah, they don't have that one. They've been working for 4 years. They want to apply for a license. And technically, according to the laws, if we tell them they have to go back and do the field class and they do the field class, those 4 years of experience don't count. They have to start all over at experience. So Josh and Tiffany and I have been putting our heads together and trying to figure out a way that we could formalize a better way for that to happen. That may involve some legislation or it may involve regulation, maybe a certain amount of it, similar to our FE and FS waiver process, maybe a certain amount of experience in lieu of that one class. For instance, the field class, I can understand why that would be important to be a licensed geologist. But to me, you're going to learn a lot more out in the field doing the work after the degree than you would be by going back and spending 2 weeks camping and drinking beer and digging up rocks. And I think there's probably a happy medium there where they get their practice, their work experience where we know they can practice. Maybe we could do something in lieu of going back and doing that class. So this will probably be bringing something forward to you in the future here for you to consider us trying to do.
I have a question. How many, oh, sorry, was someone ahead of me?
Jonathan.
Oh, go ahead.
Thanks. So I wasn't here at the last board meeting, so I'm not sure exactly what was talked about, but is it, I mean, we hear a lot of the federal government cutting back on funding for some of the colleges and universities. Is it that, or is it that there's a reduction in student numbers, or is it a combination of everything, or?
Yeah, so for Sonoma State, this has nothing to do with federal cuts. This is state cuts. And the CSU budget is closely related to the number of students that go. I think 60% of a university's funding comes from the general fund, California's general fund, which we know is struggling right now. And then 40% is tuition and fees. And they get that funding based on the number of students. So it's all tied to the number of students. Well, we've had declining birth rates, fewer graduates coming out of high school, which means fewer people going into college on a whole, and that percentage is really small of people that actually pick geology or geophysics as a pathway. So the numbers are dwindling, and these programs are struggling just because there's historically the geology programs are not huge. Maybe 50 students for all 4 years, 15 to 20 graduating per year is about average. And so the funding is tight on these, and they rely on that general fund money. And this has nothing to do with the federal cuts yet. Those are coming, and it's going to get even worse. So we're kind of trying to get out ahead of this and see, like, how can we keep this profession, and protecting the
Thriving.
public through geology licensure in the future if we don't have anybody qualified in California, because our standards are, above and beyond what some others are as far as particular courses. And like Rick was saying with the other professions, there is a pathway with no education. For geology, I think there's still going to always need to be a geology background. But if we can substitute some actual professional experience to cover educational experience and give the board the leeway to say, yes, this person is minimally qualified. They can sit for an exam now. They've got 7 years of experience. 4 of those are professional. They got the college experience, but they don't have every single unit. All right, maybe they have to get a few more years of experience to now qualify. Kind of what we're thinking.
So just as a follow-up, have we leveraged other professional groups? I mean, I thought this letter was very nicely written. So have we leveraged other professional groups to maybe partner and, have their own equivalent of letters like this to support the programs?
Yes, I know the California Geological Survey was trying to kind of use their leverage as an agency. I think the Association of Engineering Geologists is aware, and they have their lobbyists, talking about this. Geological Society of America, they have a whole lunchtime roundtable today talking about this subject. So I'm going to try to get over there and see it.
Yeah.
The professors that reached out to us and spoke to public comment last time, we know they're reaching out to many other people like Josh is referring to. We tend to not go and try to group with those people only because we're the licensing authority and we want to speak from the point of view of licensing in the public, serving the public. They will tend to come from the point of view of the profession, which they should, and how the impact that could have. So we're aware of it. We look at us as trying to close the loop and make sure the public is being protected.
So, yeah, and even NCAAS has recognized that we have this workforce issue just in general for the licensure, and they're even exploring alternate pathways to licensure. You know, so when you talk about maybe changing legislation, it maybe looks like that's where we're headed.
You know, there's most of the other states in terms of engineering and surveying require a degree and they don't have an experience-only pathway. You'll see that a little bit more with the surveying because their education, environment and climate across the nation is very similar to what Josh was saying with the geologists. They're not usually huge programs, a lot of people graduating. So I think there's a lot of other states that are having to make adjustments for experience pathways where we already have that in place in California. So we're fortunately, we don't have to worry about too much, but with the geology and geophysics, we definitely, we've already started that pathway 7 or 8 years ago with our regs, and we're having to adjust again, it looks like.
Yes. Guillermo, and then Frank.
Yeah,
And then
so
Kobe.
just had a question and maybe a thought. How many schools in the state actually offer this field class, including Sonoma at the moment?
I don't know. Most geology programs have field programs.
Okay.
Even Santa Barbara City College that I did a presentation at last year, they have a really good field program. It's not upper division, so technically it doesn't qualify, but you know, perhaps the curriculum could be reviewed and that could be counted because they do have a big program there. But most have them. I don't know exactly the number. I know Fullerton does not. That's a school I've been to, and they send off to like School of Mines. South Dakota School of Mines has a good program that a lot of people will take their geology program.
It sounds like there's not a lot, and a lot of them are, sounds like on a chopping block at this point.
Yeah, and the field program is very expensive to run.
Yeah. So, I mean, like Rick said, and everybody else, I think, who's spoken up here said, it sounds like it's time we look at a change in our legislation and laws. I think we have to adjust to the changing educational environment to ensure that we're protecting our consumers in the state.
Could I comment to Gil? I think there's 19. I just researched it, and 5 of the UCs offer the geology degree and program. So that's pretty sizable. I was just, and without taking Kobe's time, but couldn't we just consolidate geology classes with the top 10 or 15 of these 19 and just work with them? I mean, if Sonoma State can't keep a program, sorry to hear that, but there are 5 UC colleges, students could transfer there from Sonoma and hopefully build up these 5 UC colleges as centers for geology. I mean, that's just my suggestion.
That's something they can work on, the colleges can work on, not something we can work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just speaking personally.
I would also add here that the field geology class is the one that was most impacted by COVID. They basically canceled those all across, even though they're remote, and they're usually only in the summer. Is that right? They were the ones most impacted, and we're still receiving applicants from licensees who did not have the opportunity to do it at the time they were going through college. And so we're not really that surprised because it hasn't fully come back, I think, like it was pre-pandemic because it's so expensive. You know, once they didn't have to pay for it, then it's hard getting it back into the budget later on.
So Frank, Kobe, and Will.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make a quick comment. It's a curiosity question. First of all, to answer Rick's question, excellent letter. Thank you for
Thank you.
President and staff who edited and put it together. So great letter. I'm a little, my curiosity, my question about this, and maybe staff can answer is, because it's just a general letter sent to whom it may concern. Was it sent to the president of the Sonoma state? Was it sent to the CSU trustees? Was it sent to the governor? Was it, I'm just curious to know, where do we send it to?
While Josh is looking that up, we did not send it to everybody that the professors recommended, which included many newspapers and media. We did not do that.
Right.
We sent it mainly to the university people that needed to hear our concerns. Josh, you're looking it up still?
I'm still looking it up, yeah.
He's looking at, well, you may want to go on with your questions. while he's
Well, no,
looking it
no,
up.
that was just a curiosity question, because I think raising, the issues at the Board of Trustees level, raising it to the budget people in the legislature, carbon copy to them, I think it will be, and raising the awareness of this issue, whether it will make a difference or not, who knows? But that's always my question. But other than that, excellent letter. So since we went to the trouble of doing that, I agreed, Rick, we probably should not, this doesn't need to go to a media, but definitely needs to go to these decision makers, at the highest level, in order to get their attention, to let them know anyway what our position is. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Josh, did you find anything?
Yeah. So it went to the Sonoma State President, the CSU Chancellor, and the trustee office at Cal State CSU, along with a few of the professors, so they knew it went out and they can forward it on as they wish.
So just to clarify, it then went to the individual Board of Trustees, or just to their general office?
Trustee's office at calstate.edu.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Kobe, and then Will.
So I'm not surprised that Frank addressed most of the concerns that I had. I agree 100%. Great letter. My questions are almost exactly the same. Where else did this letter go to? Because it is a good letter, and it's not just the university and even CSU that needs to see this, but the legislature needs to see this. So in addition to the people that Frank suggested, which is, whoever controls the budget in the state legislature on both the House and the Senate side, I would copy them. I would certainly copy the local member of the assembly and the local state senator that contains Sonoma State, send it to them as well. And then also, if there's an appropriate person in the governor's office that oversees Cal State, send it to them as well. But this is this is kind of a crisis, and this is, the canary in the coal mine, or the tip of the iceberg, or whatever metaphor you want to use. It's a serious issue. I do understand that, when it comes to geology and the incredibly important role that they play, they do have to be qualified in order to take our exam, but probably a new look on how you can achieve the qualifications in order to be able to take the exam is something I would certainly agree with. The kind of rule that Rick just mentioned, the situation where if somebody was missing 1 degree, then that meant that all of their work experience prior to that didn't count. That's a travesty, it seems to me. That certainly doesn't seem to me to impact somebody's qualifications to take the exam. So if that is something that requires a legislative solution, we should get on that. So anyway, thank you. Great letter.
Thank you. And Will?
Yeah, it sounds like, the priority here is like we really need a healthy intake process for new people coming into a very important field in our professions. And to Fal's point about consolidating, a lot of kids go into college and then decide what they're going to do, and they're not going to switch colleges if they feel they never even got exposure to isn't present where they are. So I do think it is important to keep that education in as many places as possible. So I thank you for pursuing that. And to echo Kobe, it sounds like it's a little bit overdue to reexamine the criteria for qualification, because our goal is not to funnel people into the university system. It's to make sure that they're qualified to do the work. So if there's alternative paths where we are confident that you can learn what you need to learn, by all means, I'd like to encourage the board to put a lot of priority on that, because that's really the goal. So like, let's figure out, like, if you can get that education through working somewhere, then by all means, that should count.
Any other board comments? So I wanna really commend the board staff for thinking ahead of time, because legislative change, always takes time. Yes. And so, the last thing that we want to see is to have a gap happen, when graduate came in and not able, to get their experience count and all these, obstacles and hurdles to get themselves licensed. So I want to just really thank the staff, for the forward thinking. Let's open up for public comments then. So any public comments in the room? Yes.
We're all familiar.
It's your humble opinion, right?
You're proud of me. Michael Perlin again, it's PTO as an individual this time. Josh, thank you very much for bringing this very important topic to the public. If I knew in college I got to go camping, I would not have done engineering. That's way better, for sure. But aside from what I do and my practice and different things I've taught at Cal Poly, sorry, I have to say Cal Poly, so I'm supposed to go, no offense to Humboldt or Pomona, but since 2005. And engineering classes are very expensive to put on. Geologist classes are very expensive to put on. And when you compare it to a liberal arts, or something else, and sociology or things, and, where you just have a class and you leave and you have one professor and there's not labs and all this stuff, it gets pretty easy to look at a spreadsheet and say, let's get rid of this program that only has 40. But we don't think about what that is, what that gives to the public. I think back to the great George Jones and his wonderful song, "Who's Gonna Fill Their Shoes," if you're familiar. But it's true that AI will help us. It's not going to 10x the engineers and geologists and land surveyors that we currently have. It's going to help them do menial tasks to help do their jobs regularly. You can't rappel down a cliff on the coast trying to figure out wave rates or erosion rates and document and level things out as a geologist with an AI phone and just take a picture. It doesn't work that way. So we need people and human brains to do it. And so when we have declining birth rates, boomers retiring, and we have my generation, Gen X, starting to retire, right? We are going to have a big problem going forward. So anything we can do to support that from the board level and from staff level is good. What Natalie and Josh and Rick do in outreach is important. And I think this board, and Dallas, sorry, sometimes we don't know what Dallas does. That's on the public record. Sorry, buddy. Anything this board can do to help support staff to do more outreach, whether it's online or individual things, to get more people involved. It's not this board or staff's job to get more people into the industry, but it helps, right? It's also part of industry. So anything you can do to support them and what they do and getting more budget and away from IT or whatever Kobe's got going on, to be out there and telling more people, that'd be great. I'm just teasing Kobe. That would be wonderful. So that's what I want to advocate for, is more outreach from this board stepping in. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments in the hearing room here? Go ahead, Alan. We need another chair, right? Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Oh, you brought your own.
Younger, I'm not as bendy. I'm on the start representing professional engineers in California government. I'd like to say I appreciate the letter you wrote. I think it's well written and needed. We have a quarterly meeting with our organization in the first week of June, and I'll bring this up and see if we can't do something similar as far as a letter to advocate. As far as I could see, I Googled Sonoma State's mission and vision, and they prided themselves on being a regional university supporting like the wine industry. And I find it ironic, though, that they working for Caltrans, it's one of the most geologically unstable areas in California. The 101, Highway 1, we employed in Caltrans geotech engineers on a consistent basis to protect, citizens from landslides and to come up with solutions to prevent and fix those kind of problems on a regular basis. So reading your letter, I didn't quite get the safety aspect, but I totally agree with the way it was written. So I think our viewpoint will be more on public safety and also the need for that profession. With the current federal administration, Caltrans, we used to have a lot of people that worked for us from other countries. I think it was a green card, and it had to be renewed every so many years. And with the current administration, I don't know how that's going to be in the future. So we don't have the incoming geologists to meet the need. And if that occurs as well, further reduces the availability of that particular profession to help protect California's citizens and the public. So I think we will look at more of a focus on the current amount of need and the pipeline coming in and the public safety aspect. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much. Yes, yes, good comment. Very good. So any other public comments in the hearing room? Seeing none. Moderator, would you please open WebEx?
All right, WebEx is open on 6C as in Charlie. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. And it looks like our first request is coming from Maddie Mukherjee. I hope I said that correctly. You can correct me. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Okay.
Are you with us, Maddie?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
You did a great job pronouncing it. Maddie Mukherjee here. So I'm the chair of the geology department at Sonoma State University. I'm a structural geologist. I'm here at the GSA conference in Sacramento right now. So I'm just up in my hotel room so I can join you today. First off, very much thank you for that letter. We very much appreciated it, and we very much appreciate your guys' support. I wanted to give you just a slight update. I think Josh did actually mention this, but we do have somewhat of a reprieve in that we are allowed, our layoff date was extended by a year so that we can teach out the majors that we have. And I believe, although I haven't checked on every department, but they eliminated 6 departments. I don't believe that any other department was allowed to maintain all of their faculty where we have. And I think that actually puts us in a strategic position. The fact that none of us are leaving next year means that we can continue to advocate for the saving of our department, and reversing that decision will be easy because we will be there the entirety of all next year. So I am still asking for you guys to continue to advocate for us. I want to acknowledge what Will said and reiterate it, that basically geology majors are made, they are not recruited. Because of geology not being in our high school system, we recruit them and we make them out of the undergrads, the first years that show up at our doorstep. They don't know that they want to be geology majors until they interact with us. And so if you eliminate programs, those are just potential geology majors that will just never be made. So I get that you might want to think that, oh, couldn't we just invest in these other departments around the CSU? It just doesn't work that way, because they're never going to get, the Sonoma State students will never know that they wanted to be geology majors, because they will never be exposed to that. They don't know where to go to. Also, I wanted to reiterate what Alan said. I think the safety aspect is huge. People who make sure that our buildings are safe are our majors in Sonoma County. Those are Sonoma State grads. We had this big, rally, and we're in this building, and I have to tell them, this building only exists because our majors made sure it was safe to build it here. And that's for our region. Sonoma State is the major producer of geologists, and without them, I don't see how Sonoma County functions. We need roads, we need buildings, we need bridges, and so I think we just really need to make sure that we have as many programs as we possibly can, creating these geoscientists. We are retiring far more geoscientists than we are creating them, and it's going to become a crisis very soon. Also, with regards to licensure, if you look at the statistics, the major thing that actually is the only thing that actually correlates to success on the fundamentals of geology exam, it's the number of days you've had in field work. And Sonoma State is a really unique program in that every one of our core major classes has an associated field class with it. I teach structural geology. There's a structural geology field class. Igneous and metamorphic petrology, igneous and metamorphic field class. Every one of those has its own field class. So we're not talking about one field class. They take an intro field class, they take 4 subsequent field classes, and then a subsequent capstone field class. No other department hits field work like we do, and that's part of the reason that our students are so successful on the fundamentals of geology exam. So it would be a real shame to lose our program, because there's no other program like ours, and it will never.
30 seconds.
Thank you. It'll never get reintroduced because they are expensive, right? They are capped at 24. We will never be a big program. We were in fact growing. Our enrollment was growing over the last 2 years, but the Sonoma State enrollment is going down because we recruited, and that success is not being acknowledged. I think even at our height, they would have gotten rid of us because we will always be small. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the comments. Any other comments on WebEx?
Next, we're going to hear from Christopher Keene, or possibly Kine. Hold on just a moment, please. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Thank you very much. I'm Christopher Keene. I'm Director of Geoscience Profession and Higher Education with the American Geosciences Institute. So part of our portfolio is we do track workforce issues across the geosciences on a national basis. And, I just, to add sort of a broader long-term perspective, maximizing the throughput of qualified individuals through licensure is really critical, because we're seeing in geoscience very healthy employment. We're not really seeing any negative hits at a national level, but what we are is seeing a shift on who and where folks are employed within the industry space. So where we used to have a lot of folks in sort of what I'll call corporate employment associated with resources companies and maybe utilities and the like, what we're now seeing is substantial growth and shift of that employment over into the professional services and independent consulting spaces to the tune that we're almost at 50% of the U.S. employment of geoscientists is in that space, and of which obviously is highly reliant on a throughput of licensed geologists. So any structure that we have in place, programs like Sonoma State, which clearly prepare their students well for the pathways forward, but also at each of the state levels to maximize while maintaining all the quality, I think all those arguments are absolutely pertinent. But finding any way to maximize that throughput is, absolutely critical. And, the opportunities are there. And I think, we all recognize that there's a very large public debate about the value of degrees and career pathways. And right now, the geology, particularly the professional geologist space, can more than hold its own as contributing into the economy and providing a good livelihood for the individuals and a high impact on society. So just some words of encouragement as you move forward.
Thank you very much. Any other comments on WebEx?
Next, we're going to hear from Carrie Cato. This is potentially our last comment. So if your hand is not up and you haven't had a chance to speak, now's the time to get that hand up. Carrie, are you with us? Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm a professor of geology at Cal State San Bernardino. I've been there for about 9 years. 25 years before that, or for 25 years before that, I served as a practicing engineering geologist from industry on the East Coast and then in California since '95. More recently, I served on the oversight board for the repair of the Oroville Spillway. That was also while I was at San Bernardino. And so I think I have a breadth of experience, and I wanted to bring that to the university because I did not see it being taught at the university, and that's nationwide. Certainly, it's also true in California. What's happening in the universities is alarming, very concerning. And I want to thank Rick and Josh for this letter. I think that it was necessary. I am very saddened to see what happened at Sonoma State, but it is happening everywhere. I think that the letter, or at least the message for the letter, needs to be distributed widely. Certainly, sending it to the CSU chancellor and the members of the CSU board is important because that is a policy board, and we're seeing a lot of that on all of our 23 universities. I think the UCs, to some extent, have it, but much less so than what we're seeing in the CSU systems. I think that, for example, if I take our own program at Cal State, people do stumble into the field of geology, and that's problematic with it not being taught in the high schools. You get an earth science class in junior high, and then it's lost. And certainly with many of the new standards that don't emphasize geology, they may emphasize a dispersed type of approach to environmental science mixed in with many of the other sciences. You don't get that concentration. You certainly don't get the safety issues that we see in the practice that is so necessary. We get about 50% of our graduates in the geology program at Cal State from transferring in from community colleges. It's very challenging for them to get through in 2 years. Most of them do take about 3. So we've really started trying our own outreach into high schools. And that is one of the things that we are getting a lot of interest in, just reaching out directly. But internally, we've got problems with our own department keeping it alive. Because we're a small department, we have difficulty meeting minimum class sizes, 15 for an undergraduate class. We also have a master's program. We're very concerned about that. We have to have 10 students to make those classes make. To get people out into the fields, to get students into our master's classes, it's tough to get it up to that level, certainly for a field class. Also, I don't think that consolidation to just a few of the schools is really going to be effective. At San Bernardino, we are, I think we're really serving the CSU mission in that we serve our local area. We have about 80% of our incoming classes, and this is outside of geology, this is all undergraduates, have about 80% that are first generations. They don't have anybody else except themselves to learn about the fields. We have a lot of trouble getting them into the field of geology because is that a viable profession? We're
30
also about
seconds.
65% that are Hispanic serving institution. So I I think that this is a real problem that is facing geology programs all over the country. And I thank you for the board for looking into this and supporting universities. And I will stop there.
Thank you so much. Moderator, any other comments on WebEx?
That was our final request.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank the educators really speak up to help the board understands the geology program and how important it is to really, create the graduates to, to improve our lives and, really help to, bring the expertise, when, with, for our societies. So I think we actually need a motion for this, right? Okay.
So moved.
Who's talking?
Motion.
You said that there is a possible action, right?
Do we need to
No?
approve the letter? No?
Do we need to approve the letter?
No,
We don't.
last time.
No.
I said yes. Okay. No action needed. Okay.
No, I mean, Rick did say that he's going to bring back some ideas for us to take action on, but that's for.
All right.
Just had a little comment. What was the date on the letter? I don't see a date on here. Do you know when you sent it out?
The date. of
Just
the letter.
curious when the date went out.
Sometime in March.
March, okay. That's fine. Do we foresee a response at all, or you just hope to get one?
Yeah. What do you think, Rick?
Do you usually get a response back, Rick? Okay. Just,
No, we're not, usually with letters like this, we don't receive responses. Not the only way, it's more indirect. We know the professors received it. We know that
Right.
they have passed it along. We know people have received it.
gotcha.
We may see some action, but
Okay.
no, we're not going to expect a response. It was more, I think it was more about a week and a half ago that it went out.
Nice. Frank did mention about circulating among our legislators.
Yeah, Josh and I made notes of some of the things where you guys suggested
Great.
to additionally share it with, and that's something he and I will look at when we're done with our board meeting and
Great.
see what we can do about appropriately sharing it with additional people.
It went out March 18th.
The green light says go. It would seem to me that if a legislature is going to receive a letter like that, it would be more meaningful coming from a resident of, or someone who works in that location than some organization from Sacramento.
Are you talking about the representative from that region?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be appropriate that
That makes sense.
the assembly person and the state senator receive it, but it would be more meaningful coming from a professor there or a student there or somebody than it would be for our board.
Yeah, I think one thing we'll probably do is we'll probably reach out to the professors to see who they've already shared it with. But I agree, I think that was mentioned previously. It'd probably be more meaningful in the area where that university is located at and where they're most impacted.
Awesome. So since we do not need any action for this letter, so I think this conclude our discussion for, for this agenda item. So let's take a break and let's come back 10:40. And when we will resume to talk about the next, the legislative matters. Thank you so much. So 10:40. It's 10:40. And let's resume the meeting. All right, very good. Wonderful. Everybody's back. So now we have a quorum. So let's move on to the legislative portion of our board meeting today. So, legislative calendar, right?
Okay, we'll start with the legislative calendar on page 43 of your meeting materials. We're currently just the beginning of April. The committees are meeting right now before the spring recess, be a little short spring recess there in the middle of the month. And then it really will heat up the rest of the month of April and into May. There'll be a lot of activity now. This is why it's good for us to look at legislation that's been introduced now, even though some of the language is changing as we speak. It'll really heat up in May, and our next board meeting will be May 29th. So we'll see a lot of legislative discussion over the next couple meetings. I'm going to move ahead to AB 667. There is an amendment to that. You all should have received that amendment. I think Selena has copies in a room here, and it was posted to our website. Literally, this was amended. Assembly Bill 667 was amended April 1st. It wasn't a joke. This is probably the most controversial one we're bringing to you at this stage in this cycle this year. This is related to interpreters. Originally was the analysis is on, well, separate. You got the separate addendum. Originally was looking for just any oral or verbal portions of examinations that applicants could request an interpreter for that. But we kind of got the heads up from DCA Ledge Unit that it probably would change to include all portions. So we were prepared one way or the other. It did come out to include all portions. They made substantial revisions to it. It does appear to focus on certain professions, certain occupations, but right now the language is written to affect all boards and bureaus underneath DCA, which caused us a lot of heartache. It's not really clear what, is this instructions? Is this, all of our exams, computer-based testing, so you got to come into the center, be checked in, everything that's involved with the whole thing. Plus, we have national exams and state exams. Not all boards and bureaus have both. Sometimes they have one or the other. Sometimes they have both. I did reach out to NCWS and Prometric. I kind of lightly reached out to ASBOG only because they use Prometric also, so I knew the responses would probably be similar. NCWS uses Pearson VUE as their examination vendor. Pearson VUE was aware of this bill. When I reached out to them, it was before these revisions were made. They said it would cost tremendous change for them to be able to do that. NCWS was very diplomatic about their response, but basically said since this would only be a California requirement and not a federal requirement, they would not abide by it. And I have no understanding of how us nor the state could require the national providers to do something. Prometric was able to give us a little bit of information. Surprisingly, they said that it's something they do offer through a third-party vendor. It's not something they get a lot of requests for, particularly government clients. Our contact was aware of one government client that's written into the contract, but it's rarely used. They could not provide cost to us because the cost is highly dependent on what language we're talking about, the availability and location of the interpreter versus the location of where the examinee wants to sit for the exam. More importantly is because this would be a verbal translation, they would actually have to close down the CBT center for that one exam. And so if we had someone that requested, say, one of our state civil exams, that's our shortest exam in terms of 3 hours, 3.5 hours of seat time, or in the room kind of situation, we would be paying for that entire center to be shut down for that term. No one else could schedule. There's a lot of things that go into the cost. It's not something that they could just say, the fee is this. Plus, NCWS, nor Prometric for us, for our state exams, have any record of anyone making a request for us. So it's very difficult for us to do that. We do about, over the last 3 years, we do about 5,800 state exams annually and about almost a little less than 12,000 national exams attributed to California people. So even if we just look at the state exams and estimate a very conservative 1%, be about 58, 60 people, we're not sure what the cost could be, but it could be substantial interruption to not only other of our applicants sitting in the same CBT center or trying to schedule there, but all these other professions. So if you take all the other professions under the other boards and bureaus, they could be encountering something very similar. So it could impact scheduling. The additional part of this is to have the board start gathering on our website through the application process preferred languages for interpretation and report that on an annual basis. We're not really sure how that will pan out. So for all of these reasons, we're recommending that the board take an oppose unless amended position on it. As I say, as introduced, it should be as revised on April 1st or amended on April 1st, and authorize us to communicate to the author's office as well as with the committees involved to request an exemption of our board from this, to express our concerns and exempt our board from this requirement.
Mike?
I'd like to make a motion that we, as a board, oppose this bill unless amended and as amended on April 1st.
Yep.
Second by Kobe. Okay.
I just have a question. So oppose unless amended? I mean, what kind of amendment would we be happy with that we would?
Exempt our board.
Oh, okay. Okay, then I'm all for it.
That would be unless it's amended to exempt our board.
Perfect. Any discussion from that?
Just a point of clarification, does it require the motion to add that authorize staff to communicate the board's concerns? Do we need that, or was that implied?
You do need that.
Okay, so then I will offer a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
To add that to the motion.
Which
is authorize staff to communicate the board's concerns to the author's office along with a request to exempt the board from this language.
That covers it from.
Okay. Yes, yes. So the motion's been modified. Kobe, you're still good to be?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion from the board?
Yes, I want to ask a question.
Go ahead.
I think, Rick, you mentioned that there might be other boards kind of in a similar situation as us where we have a national exam as well.
Yes, there probably are. When we met, legislative unit of DCA holds regular meetings where we all can get together and discuss bills. When we met on this, it was prior to the revisions, but we expected this revision to include a written portion. There were a few boards that did not have any issues because they were already translating their exams into certain languages. There were just a few of them. Most of the boards expressed concerns on what impact this would have, but it was very new. The bill had just been introduced at that point. I have shared with the ledge unit the concerns brought forth by our national provider and by Prometric Other than that, we haven't had any other discussions, but I suspect there will be other boards that will have some concerns, yes.
Okay, well, so my comment was going to be that maybe we can recruit those other boards to, kind of go before legislature together and strengthen numbers, right? So,
I'll reach out to the Ledge Unit and ask if they're aware of any other boards that are taking a similar situation with the national exams or having those same similar things and see what we can do about doing that.
right, okay. Yeah, because I think it would be a lot more powerful to present, the arguments from the different boards and why there might be some issues related to public safety, et cetera.
Definitely. This is one of those ones that, because it affects all boards and bureaus currently the way it's written, DCA is very active in working with the committees in their author's office on these things. So I'm sure they'll be communicating with them. So yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
So there's a degree of flexibility here, Rick. Some boards have already been doing translations.
There are a few boards that already do translations, but there was just a few that brought it up in the meeting. My feeling that I took away, and I'm not sure, was they don't have the complex or as complex of an examination process as we do.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, there were questions that were brought up, like, is there an interpreter for the state laws? Is there an interpreter for the applications? There were a lot of different questions that were brought up. Not the least was examination security. That was brought up. You have a person that is being brought into this room that sees examination content, and will they be assisting other candidates for the same type of license, the same type of exam? And I believe the language is trying to address that, but that's not going to alleviate examination security concerns and content exposure concerns.
Kobe?
So we've addressed this a little bit in the past, and I don't have, I want to be pretty clear. All the concerns so far that Rick has raised have been about the examination process, but to me, and that is a big part of it, of why we should oppose unless we're exempted out. But to me, there's a bigger issue here, and that is, and this is certainly not true of every DCA board, but it seems to me that in California, our primary job is to protect the public. And I just don't see how someone who doesn't have adequate enough English proficiency to be able to pass the exam without an interpreter is going to be able to properly practice the regulated professions in the state of California, to understand our regulations, to understand our laws, to be able to communicate properly with clients, to be able to communicate properly with, county surveyors or, departments of engineering at the various localities. I think that English proficiency is part of the protection of the public in California, and I was going to, even before these amendments, I was going to ask why we weren't opposing this bill as opposed to just watching it. I think it's a bad idea for our boards, and I think we should strongly oppose any accommodations like this for lack of English proficiency.
I think those are very pertinent topics and thoughts you brought up, because in our professions with engineering, surveying, and geology, even watching the closed captioning on our webcast, our WebEx here, there's certain technology topics, terms that just don't translate. And I would imagine in the medical profession, there's a reason why a lot of them are still Latin. They just don't translate. And I think that's a huge aspect of this too. I know that in the past, we have had situations where there have been proposals to publish exams in different languages. And NCWS looks at this every few years. And it's something they've held fast to it. English is the only thing that we're going to promote our exams or provide our exams in, because to be able to proficiently practice in this country, and in our case, the state, you need to be able to understand and communicate effectively. And I would imagine if we go to any other country, it would have to be the same way. So.
Very good. So we have a motion on the floor, and let's open the discussion for public comments in the hearing room here. Any public comments here? Yes. Ah, thank you. All right. Wonderful. Any other public comments in the hearing room? Seeing none, let's go to WebEx moderator, please.
We are open for public comment via WebEx on 7B1 and the motion before us. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. Let's take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you very much. So Selena, I think we're ready to vote.
President Wong,
Yes.
Vice President Martinez. Dr. Amistad.
Yes.
Ms. D'Antonio.
Yes.
Mr. Hartley, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Rufino,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yeah, yes.
Mr. Villegas.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. So let's move on to AB 742, the DCA licensing applicants who are descendants of slaves.
Yes, Assembly Bill 742 begins on page 52 of your board meeting materials. So this is something, if you remember from last year, that there was an attempt at this bill, and it was actually pulled by the author's office after consulting with the various different committees, the Assembly Committee and the Senate Committee on Business and Professions. So they've come back with a new version of this bill. You have to look at this bill in addition to Senate Bill 518. So a lot of our concerns expressed last time by this board and others was the issue here is if there's a descendant of slave, they should be able to expedite their application through the licensure process. But it was putting the onus on the applicant to prove they're the descendant and on the board to confirm and verify that. And none of us knew how we were going to accomplish that. And in some ways, the concerns expressed were this could be dragging out a process that was intended to expedite something that would actually be longer than the normal application process. So this time, if you, Senate Bill 518, which we will come to shortly, seeks to establish the Bureau for Descendants of American Slavery, and it will be their role to evaluate and confirm whether someone meets that criteria. So if that happens, these bills would have to pass in compatible forms together. And if that happens, then it does take the concerns away from us having to determine whether someone is the descendant of or not and meets that criteria. The only other concern that really follows with that is, and this is something being expressed by many of the boards and bureaus, is if we continue to add on more and more situations of expediting, at what point is no one being expedited? We're already doing that for military. And I would say that we don't receive a lot of applications that request expediting from that. Our staff looks for it. As soon as they see it, they'll raise to the top of the pile and they'll work on those. We don't really expect a lot of these application types either, but it is a concern that how often are we're going to be looking at proposed bills that expedite a special interest group. So based on the way the language is currently written and the fact that 518 could establish this bureau, at this point, we're recommending the board take a watch position on this.
Board members, comments?
I'll move the recommended motion.
Fel second. So Kobe move and Fel second. Any other discussion? Fel second.
Yes.
Yes. No.
So, yeah,
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
I've asked this question of our board in the past, how we act equitably. And I'm wondering both for the previous motion and this motion, how we deal with one of our core values, which is equity. And I'm really curious to know what you guys think about that.
My only comment is, and I understand why you're asking what you're asking. My only comment is, as soon as someone, for whatever reason, is expedited, it takes the equation out because they're expedited. They're not being treated equally. They're being treated special. And I don't mean that in a bad way or a good way. That's the whole point of it. If you're in this situation and you meet the criteria, you're to go to the top of the list for the application process. We can't make them go to the top of the list to take the exam any sooner. If there's an exam, that's why state exams are kind of taken off the table at that point. It's just application approval. So it does seem to be only one aspect and not cover the whole thing. But to me, it's not an equitable situation. It's not being treated equally. Right now, we don't care who your descendants are for any applicants. We don't really care how old you are. We don't really care what gender you are. We treat you all equally. We try to get you through as fast as we can, first come, first serve. And to us, the way we're treating you right now is as equitable as possible.
But I mean, equity and equally are not the same thing, right? I mean, I understand your question. So equity is all about recognizing that some group of people were not treated equally or fairly, or were disenfranchised or whatever, for whatever reason, and therefore we're trying to make up for that in order to help them now compete in an equitable manner. And so I see that aligned with this particular bill. With regards to the previous one, I agree with you. It has nothing to do with equity. Our focus should be mainly on, are they qualified, whether they can speak the language or not. So that's how I see it, a little bit different. And so for this particular case, I would agree that we should watch it. And I do agree with you, if we begin to treat all groups of people with this lens of equity, then we're back to where we started from, and therefore nothing really matters. But in this particular case, I do think that we should watch.
Any other comments from board members? Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Let's open for public comments here in the hearing room. Okay, seeing none. Mr. Moderator, would you please open WebEx for public comments?
We are open for public comment on 7B2. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you very much. So, Selena, I think we're ready to vote.
President Wong,
Yes.
Vice President Martinez,
Yes.
Dr. Amistad,
Yes.
Ms. D'Antonio,
Yes.
Mr. Hartley,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Rufino,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Villegas.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Now, since we're talking about this bill, the last bill relating to SB 518, can we talked about that for the sake of consistency?
We can, if
Yes.
that's what you want to do.
Yes.
I'm more than happy to accommodate you. So we'll move ahead to Senate Bill 518 on page 58. You know, I'm just going to add to this conversation. As staff, I'll try to speak for staff here. They may yell at me later, but we like the ability that applicants come in and if we remember your name and multiple staff members know your name, there was a problem. Otherwise, these names just flash by. Where you live flashes by. Do you qualify? Yes, no. If you don't, here's what you need to do to get qualified. Great, you're qualified. Go take the exam or here's your license. We like that. We don't want to get personally involved. We don't, the more things come in and say you need to do this and you have to start separating people out, the more we're like, we like the ability to just look at their qualifications, and that's all we want to do. Just a little bit of side note there. Commentary. Okay, Senate Bill 518, as previously mentioned, this bill seeks to establish a bureau for descendants of American slavery. Within state government, under control of the director, who will be appointed by the governor, confirmed by the Senate. The duties of this bureau, among other things, will determine an individual's status as a descendant and confirm it. Once they have that, once an individual is confirmed to have that status, then that could be something potentially to be transferred to a licensing board if they want to seek a license in the expedited application process. So as previously mentioned, we understand where this could help in certain situations. It goes hand in hand with Assembly Bill 742, and we're recommending you take a watch position on this as introduced February 19th, 2025.
Thank you, Rick. And Kobe.
So, two things. One, I want to make sure we're going to get back to AB 1341.
Yes, we will be.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
go back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand why we took a watch position on the last bill because it does actually directly impact us, but do we even need to take a position on this bill?
Technically.
Even if it's as anodyne as watch?
Yeah, technically don't. I mean, the fact that it's establishes a section under the general BMP code, which means this Department of Consumer Affairs, a whole new bureau. If the other bill passed and this one didn't, it would probably be passed and revised to put the onus back on the applicant and back on each individual board and bureau. So that was my concern, is that I was looking at these equally, because if that other bill made it through in some form without this bill, we would be back to where our concerns were expressed last year. So would every other board. That's why I recommend it.
Okay.
I don't, if you chose not to, we would still watch it ourselves. So I'm just letting you know that.
Guillermo and Mike.
Just have a question out of curiosity, from a time savings perspective. So if somebody, for example, was military and they got expedited, what kind of time savings are they getting from the moment their application was submitted to approved versus someone who didn't have military service?
I don't have specific statistics on that because we don't receive a lot of them, but I can tell you how the process goes. So when each of applications come into the licensing unit, they're assigned to evaluators based on different disciplines. When they come in and log in on that system, they can filter immediately and see, okay, which ones have an expedited status for the 2 or 3 different reasons. They will process those first, regardless of time frame. So if you have some applications that have been sitting in there for 20 days, and because they have so many of them, and then you see one that just popped in last night, that one immediately goes to the top of the list. So they'll process it from their point of view. If there's deficiencies, and it has to go back to the applicant, you didn't give us this information, you didn't answer this, then the time frame is back on the applicant. But assuming that they submitted a complete application, they will process that first. It'll go to technical review. And once it's in technical review, our senior registrars will immediately look at that. I know that for my group of applications that I'm assigned to currently, I don't receive as many as, like, say, the civil. So once a week, I'll go and watch and see which ones have expedite, and every once in a while, I'll see one or two pop up. And it doesn't matter to me how many days that's been in the queue now. I go do that one first. So it's a matter of doing that. If we had a much larger impact in terms of volume of that, we would probably have it automatically built in to where they would jump up to the top of the list, more so than we currently have. Doesn't mean that we're not asking for that in the future, but it's something we currently do. So it's really hard to say how many days at this point, but they rise to the list as soon as we recognize them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
There's no fiscal impact. Has any fiscal impact been determined related to this? I just find it.
We've communicated to DCA, ledge unit, and budgets that it would be minor and absorbable because we are not aware of any request. We've ever had these kind of requests. We don't know. We don't know what race our applicants are now. So we have no idea. We don't know where any of them have come from or if they're descendants of slavery anywhere in the world. So we don't know.
Any other discussion, board members? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Not yet. Okay, go Will.
I'm dancing around with Kobe's comment about how much we need to care about this one versus the other one. And maybe it is enough for just to take this off of our radar and leave it on staff's radar. Because I agree with Rick that it's certainly relevant in the event that the other bill passes and this doesn't. And then you could maybe put it back in our attention. But in the meantime, this particular one doesn't really affect the board directly. And so absent that, maybe we should just take a pass on it for the time being. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this. I think that, in order to address some past wrongs, like some things are necessary, I think you kind of want to try to do it in cases where you get a lot of bang for the buck. I'm not sure that this is one of them. And so creating, I don't know if there's a way for the board to express that creating a perception of unfairness is problematic for the people that are affected by that, and it may not be worth it in this instance is all. I don't think that, it doesn't sound like people benefit greatly from getting expedited through this process. You still end up basically in the same timeline for testing and whatnot. So it just seems like maybe this is a little bit of an airball, a whiff.
I will say that, like a lot of bills, like the one we discussed earlier with 667, a lot of bills that seem to be focusing on certain occupations and certain professions that attempt to modify every board and bureau under DCA, it's not really targeted appropriately from my point of view. I can understand there may be other occupations or professions where where those licensing bodies have many more applicants than we do. And their volume of processing those applications and getting those people licensed and into the workforce, this could have an impact on that. I just don't believe the impact, we would see that same kind of impact. But yeah, I can see where this may.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Mike?
Going back to an earlier comment that I made, one of our core values is equity. This does not seem like an equitable bill. I make a motion that we oppose this bill unless amended.
Do we have a second for Mike's opposed position? All right. So back to discussion. So do we have a motion, another motion on the floor? So staff recommendation is to watch. Will?
I'll move that we not take a position on this bill.
Means watch.
No,
Means
that we not
Just
take a
leave it.
position on this bill.
Okay. Do you have a second for not taking a position?
Do we need to, because wouldn't that just be status quo? Do we actually need to make a motion to not take a position?
We can, right.
You just don't do anything,
If
right?
there's, if it doesn't get a second and there's no other motion, it's the same thing.
Yes.
Okay, so in that case, I'll just sit here and. Then be quiet.
So Madam Chair, I move the recommended
Lil and
action.
I are just going to sit on the sidelines now.
Go, Frank.
I move the recommended action to take a watch position on AB 1341.
I second.
Okay, what's going on? So Rosanna second, yes. So Frank moved to watch. Rosanna second. That's the
What
original.
Tiffany was saying is you said 1341.
It's 5/8.
It's 518. So no one else heard that but Tiffany.
Oh, because you're on the wrong page here. We're looking at 518.
No, it's not.
We skipped one
We skipped one and then we're 5/8.
temporarily.
Because these are.
So now we don't have a current motion on the floor then, right now.
Okay, so I move that we take a watch position on SB 518.
Okay. Any second?
I second.
Val, second. Okay, very, very wonderful. So now we have a motion on the floor to take a watch position on this bill. Let's open for public comments in the hearing room. No, okay, very good. Moderator, would you please open WebEx for public comments on SB 518?
We are open for public comment via WebEx on 7B4. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no requests, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you so much. So Selena, here you go.
President Wong,
Yes.
Vice President Martinez,
Yes.
Dr. Amistad,
Yes.
Ms. D'Antonio. Yes. Mr. Hartley,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Rufino,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Abstain.
abstain.
Mhm.
Okay. Mr. Villegas,
No.
motion failed. 2, 3, 6, yeah, motion failed. Oh, well, abstentions go with yeses, correct? 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the motion carried. My apologies.
Can you tally up the votes, please?
Yes, we have 7 yeas, 1 no, and 1 abstention, and the abstention goes with the yeses.
Okay. So we carry this motion. Thank you very much. So let's go back to AB 1341.
Well, that was
And-
interesting discussion on so many levels.
Yes, yes. And I'm
Even
wondering-
counting the votes, that was interesting.
It's actually really cool because I'm hearing all these different options. It's like, wow, okay, we could have taken no action, but action and no action. So anyway,
Madam President, just real quick, could council remind me of on the minimum votes necessary to adopt a motion by the board? That's what I thought. I mean, that was clearly a majority of the quorum, even if the abstention didn't count for the purposes of the vote. So it's not so in order to adopt something, you don't need a majority of the board. You need a majority of those voting, a quorum being present. Okay, thank you. Yes. Sometimes in some bodies, it is a majority of the body regardless of how many people you have. So we would need 8 votes. There'll be a test later.
We did not carry with, oh, Kobe has it. It's nice to have attorneys on our board.
Makes sense. That back.
So for us today, 9 people here, so we need 5 votes to pass a motion, correct?
5.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So we got it. Wonderful. Clarified. Thanks for the information. And now we go back to AB 1341. And on your board material, page 55.
Thank you, Christina.
You're
So,
welcome.
Assembly Bill 1341, this is language that you heard about last year during our sunset review process. Some of the concerns that were expressed by the professional community relate to unlicensed practice. Some of the things were incorporated into our sunset bill. Some the sunset committees understood, some they did not embrace at the time for whatever reason. So at this point, this bill speaks. Sorry, I'll bring up the right page here. Seeks to modify a section of the Business Professions Code that is underneath the licensing of licensed contractors. And it basically is adding language into that section that if a licensed contractor, so a contractor licensed under the CSLB, Contractor State Licensing Board, were found to have violated any of our laws related to our regulated practice, they could be subject to discipline by the CSLB. I reached out to CSLB. They also include architects on this. Architects is, they had just heard about it also. I have not heard anything back from either board yet. I'm sure I'll have more communication with them about this. I can tell you that currently and for many years, if we do have a license from another board, we already reach out to those boards and say, hey, just letting you know. But we have no control whether they discipline anyone or we don't tell them what they should do. This sounds like this is putting it on CSLB to take some action or at least investigate the process if there's a situation. So if a licensed contractor is found by us, and that could be would likely be a citation, found by us to have practiced anything without the appropriate license, that then they would have to investigate and determine any sort of discipline. At this point, the staff recommends the board take a watch position on this, even though it doesn't impact our statutes. It does impact our operations and our processes when we work with the other boards.
Why not take a support position? I mean, do you have any objection to us taking a support? To me, that seems like a support position would be in line with our protection of the public.
I will say this, that this is the first iteration of this language that I saw. I have not heard back from CSLB nor the Architects Board on this. I kind of felt, and Tiffany and I discussed this, so Tiffany, if you want to chime in too, also with your expertise. We kind of felt the way the language was written, it was a little cumbersome. And it may not be appropriately targeted the way it's written. That was really the reason why we just said watch, because I don't really know how the board that's truly impacted by this is gonna come forward. So it's just more of, I'm not really sure at this point. Do you, anything you want to add?
Same, I had a couple concerns about the exact language of it, maybe some citations of our statutes that may or may not have been the most applicable to what they're trying to do. On a enforcement level, I support the efforts here. I personally do. I don't really know. One of my concerns was, what does it mean they were the subject, quote, to have been found? Is that, evidentiary speaking, is it action we're going to take that includes, administrative citations? Is it that we have a responsibility to share our investigative file with another board? Other than just us writing a letter to a contractor that says we found you violated our law. I have some concerns about passing around our investigative files to another program. Not that I have any lack of trust in CSLB, but it is a confidential investigation file. So I feel like I have a couple concerns, but I think in general, on an enforcement level, I certainly have for a very long time supported the concept of the related boards having some maneuverability in that respect, including like the architects board and CSLB. So in general support, but I mean, I have a couple concerns in general about the language.
If I can follow up then? So what would you think about a motion where the board expressed general support for the concept that's embodied in the bill in terms of where we discover violations of our laws and regulations by those who are subject to the CSLB to be required to report that to them, and ask staff to work with the author on language that is satisfactory to us.
I think we would be generally fine with that. If I'm not really sure exactly what you said, but I think I understood what you said. That'd be good luck in making that motion, but it's.
Oh,
yeah, but
there is a
I
take.
think generally speaking, we wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably repeat it pretty close to what I just said.
Yeah, I sort of dovetail with Colby because it's the spirit of our jobs to protect the health and safety of California. So it's so logical that we should support it, but I'm still trying to get your argument why we should sort of take a watch. I'm still not yet convinced that it's a watch position, unless I must have missed something.
Frank?
I assume, Phil, you did not second, or it was not a formal motion.
Wasn't a formal, I was asking whether or not they would be okay with that motion.
It's just discussion, Frank.
Got it. I'm just going to say that I do support the comment, and I do support the concept of a motion once it's made.
I can make the motion if you would like.
Yes.
So I would move that the board take that the board support the idea that where our board discovers violations of the building laws of the state by our regulated licensees, that we report those violations to the CSLB, and that we work with the author of AB 1341 on language that is satisfactory to staff.
I'll second.
And Mike? Yes.
I make a motion that we take a watch position on this bill.
Well, you can. Our motion's already on the floor. So we can defeat that, and then we could take up your motion.
You can't have an alternate motion at the same time?
It can be a friendly if it's accepted, but it doesn't sound like it's accepted.
So So Mike, you want to make an alternative motion. So how should I proceed? You cannot. So we have to,
There's a second.
that's what I'm thinking. So,
100%.
right. So in that sense, let's open for public comments for this motion first, and then we'll see how it goes. Would that work? Okay. All right. Now, we have a motion on the floor to take a very, for Kobe to,
Conceptual support for the idea.
yes, like that. Wonderful. So, discussion here in the hearing room? Frank? Seeing none here. So moderator, would you please open WebEx for public comments?
We are open for public comment on 7B 3. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
I don't think we really ever had, I know we talked, but we didn't have discussion about the motion, in my opinion. I don't disagree with Kobe's sentiment on this, and as expressed by other people, I just really feel that a watch position is a more appropriate thing for us to be doing at this point, because I know that we've already given the message to staff that we want them to actively watch this. So I think that's a more appropriate thing to do.
Thanks for your comment. And Rosanna?
Yeah, and I agree with Mike on this one. I think that there's just too many unknowns, and I think that maybe, those gaps could be filled with a little bit of time, and I think we can then support it when there's more answers to our queries.
Before we vote, I'll just say that I think a watch position is a position of neutrality. And we are directing staff by a watch position if this motion fails and we vote on a watch position, that we're not telling staff to do anything. Here, we're saying, hey, this is a good idea. We don't really like some of the language in your bill. We want to work with you on it because this is a good idea. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. All right. So we ready to vote on the motion moved by Kobe, second by Frank?
Can I confirm that motion? I have,
Selena, if you don't mind, I'll just say whatever was on the recording, but essentially, it is to,
I can read you what I have. You can say.
yeah, sure,
no.
sure.
Move to take a position of support on AB 1341 with the idea that where our board discovers violations of the building laws of the state by our regulated licensees, that we report those violations to CSLB and that we work with the author of AB 1341 on language that is satisfactory to staff.
Close.
Okay.
The only difference is, and this is, I think, an important distinction, is that take a support on the concept of AB 1341, not the bill itself.
Okay.
Okay, it's a good point.
Rosanna?
I guess I have a question. So if we go with Kobe's motion, we're going to have an opportunity to see it again. And if we're not satisfied, then we can change to oppose. Right? So we can oppose, even though we take a support now, conceptual support, we can change our mind depending on what we see next time.
Well, and And to be clear, the reason that I said, I wanted to make sure that the word concept is in there is because we are not taking a support position on the language in this bill. We're not. I'll be clear about that. We're going to work with the author on implementing his good idea in a way that's satisfactory to us.
Is it clear to board members? Think about your vote. All right. So Selena,
President Wong,
yes.
Vice President Martinez,
Yes.
Dr. Amistad,
Yes.
Ms. D'Antonio,
Yes.
Mr. Hartley, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Rufino,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Villegas.
No.
Motion failed because we only have 7 yeses.
We need 5.
I thought it was 8.
So we only need 5. Yes.
I misunderstood. Okay. All right, motion carried.
Thank you so much, Selena. All right. So, and thank you for the very fervent discussion. You know, this is really wonderful. All right. So let's see. Okay, so so my plan is to finish up, the legislative, the discussion of the legislation, and then we go for lunch. Would that work for everyone? Okay. All right. So the next bill is SB 470, the Beckley-Keene Open Meeting Act teleconferencing. That would be page,
63.
yes, page 63.
So Senate Bill 470, basically, ever since the pandemic, we had variations of how we carried on and conducted an open public meeting. There were emergency executive orders that had us do different things. As the pandemic has waned by the wayside, and there were final changes that were made that still accommodated remote access, allowing having us a WebEx meeting, remote public participation, hybrid type meetings versus strictly in person like the old version of the laws were. And we're currently operating under that hybrid approach, which from the board's perspective, not only seems to be working well for all of you and us, but also allows the public, regardless of where we're at, allows the public to be able to participate remotely when we can make that available. So we think it's a good thing. This bill is only seeking to remove the sunset date of these provisions and make them permanent. So staff is, for those reasons, the staff is recommending the board take a support position on this because it basically just formalizes what we're currently doing and maintains it past the deadline, the date, the sunset date.
Board members, comments, Mike?
On the one hand, I think it's wise and appropriate to invite as much participation in our board meetings as possible. On the one hand, I see the benefit of that. On the other hand, if you want to address the board and participate, and before COVID, you needed to show up. If we were in Sacramento, you'd go to Sacramento. If we were in San Bernardino, you'd go to, if it was important enough, you would show up. And part of me thinks that we should go back to that. It was great to have the participation of the Sonoma State professors and people associated with that program. But I have a feeling if we didn't have WebEx, they would have been here in person because it's important to them. Two schools of thought, I suppose, but I lean more towards the latter. I think people should show up in person if they want to address our board.
So let me reiterate. So the change for this bill is to remove the sunset date. Yeah, just to make sure.
So just to kind of a counterpoint to that, we used to travel around the state to make ourselves accessible so that people could attend in person, when that was the only option they had, was to attend in person. Us doing less traveling and meeting primarily up here is not due to this, it's due to budget concerns at the general fund level. And asking us to not do any unnecessary expenses. So I think that as long as we as a board are encouraged by the administration to lessen our travel, I think the more we can accommodate the public from around this state, the better off we are.
Will and Rosanna.
On that line, also, regardless of where the meeting is, it's always going to be far for somebody. It's a large state. And if the topic that you care about is happening during a meeting when it's way the hell over there, that kind of sucks. So, and just to use an example of today, like we had some excellent comments online via WebEx today, and I would hate to have lost the opportunity for those people to speak up at our meeting and make the comments that they did, which I felt were very valuable. So I think to the degree that we can do anything to increase public participation, we should be doing that. And, this is not costing us much. There's a person who has to manage it and there's a little more time involved, but I think it's been worth it. And it's been a positive for the board.
Thanks. Rosanna? Mike?
Yeah, and I would also say that this is an equity and inclusivity issue, so we want to encourage that participation. So I completely agree with Wilfredo on this.
And
Well, we're assuming that people's participation is as effective via WebEx as it would be in person, and that's not always the case. Today it was, I think, but when we have folks in the room available, if we chose to ask questions, see body language, there's more to communication than just words. And I think, I'll say it again, if it's important enough for someone to address our board, they will travel across the state if need be to show up and be there in person.
Can I?
And Guillermo and Frank.
Yeah, I think if we learn anything from the pandemic is that we should leverage all and any technology available to expand our outreach to the people that we're here to protect. Whether if that's online or they're through WebEx or in person, I think the more people we can reach, the more voices we can hear, the better this board and the better we can protect the public. So I support this motion, this bill.
Thank Frank. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and ditto to the previous comment. And I will also like to add an observation that this is not specific just for this board. This is for all boards. And as I sit on multiple boards, I can tell you that there are some boards, for example, CalPERS, which you have speakers from all over the United States, not just from one county, from one place, and has worked well. And so for those reasons, I think you need to take a look at the global picture. And I don't want to repeat what's been said already, but for all these reasons, I do support this bill.
Frank brought up a good point there. Similar to applications, we don't know how many members of the public are participating on WebEx outside of California. We have had our examination vendor Prometric here in person and online through WebEx. Means they don't have to travel, which means we don't have to pay them to travel, because we will pay for it in some way or another. So California does have a attraction to have people from outside the states, and that's a good point. We may have participants.
Kobe and then the Will and then.
So I'd like to make a motion and then speak to it. The motion is to take the recommended support position on the bill. So a couple of things. I think a lot of people have already made really good points about being more accessible. I want to respond to Michael's points, and that is to say that I agree that it is more effective when somebody takes the time to come here, speaks with us, potentially has a dialogue. But I think the point of the bill is to provide more options. And so if somebody does think that it's important enough that they want to come and speak to us, then great, they have that opportunity. And yeah, it does have more impact. But I don't think it's an either or. I think that you give the members of the public the opportunity to engage in the way that they want to engage, or that they think is as effective as it can be, depending on what they think is the importance and just how important it is to them and how much resources they want to put into it. So I think the bill does that, strikes the appropriate balance. And I also am really glad, by the way, that despite the fact that we've been allowed to meet remotely, we have continued to meet in person, because I feel strongly that we're much more effective as a board when we meet in person. But that doesn't really impact that fact shouldn't restrict people from participating in our meetings in the way that is most appropriate for them.
So, Madam Chair, I don't think the
It has
motion
not been
was second,
seconded.
so I would like to second that motion, please.
So it's moved by Kobe and second by Frank. And Will?
I solidly agree on the subject of, like, if you want to be here and make a point stronger by nature of being here, then by all means, that's a great option, an important option to have. I think that the notion that if it's important enough to you that you'll make it happen is severely misinformed, though. Not everybody can take the day off of work on that particular day. We've got somebody who called in today from a conference at their end that they would have had to choose. Am I participating in this conference? Perhaps I'm speaking at the conference, or do I go to this other thing? Perhaps family, whatever. There's a lot of reasons why people can't just travel, pick up and go. So I think it's really critical that, the trade isn't make your point or make your point better. The point is, like, show up or don't show up at all. And if you're telling people that they're not welcome because they can't afford to make it happen, then that's, I think, an unfortunate consequence. So I'm very strongly in support of the status quo. And to the degree we can make it more open, I'd be excited to look at that too.
So I have a question for, I'm not even sure who. Is this, are we currently, I mean, each of us, are we currently able to attend this via WebEx and be participating fully? Like, we don't have to be here in person right now?
I think the board member rules are different than this.
Yeah, I was really hoping you guys wouldn't take this discussion. You have several different options under the current rules. And one is if you have a board member that cannot attend in person, they could be remotely, as long as the majority of them, and I'm really simplifying this, the majority of them are in person and accessible. We don't want to be at that situation because, as all of you have expressed, it's better to be in person in terms of board members and taking these actions. But it does give us the flexibility if we do have a situation where a board member is unable to travel but can still participate. And that could happen at times. We just don't want to make a habit of it. Then it could be a situation where under these current rules, we would have that. Under the previous older rules, that would not happen. If you were not there, if you were not participating where the majority of the board members were, you would have to be in a location that would be open up for public access and have to have all the same public access and public comment all there at the same time. It's not fun. We've had that in the past. That's why we like these new rules, because it gives us the flexibility to do something in an event of a situation that is not happening very often, but also gives the public the ability to participate much easier, whether it's in person or remotely.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor, and let's open for public comment here in the hearing room. Yes, Alan.
Thank you. I would have prohibited myself from coming for public safety. I wouldn't want to give anybody else my cold. Just to let you know, I'm 98% recovered, so I don't think I'm contagious right now. I represent a committee that monitors your board activities. There's 5 of us, and I'm retired, so I'm the only one that can reasonably take time off and come to these meetings. In rare case I can't, I request one of my other members, committee members, to follow the board activities. That's a goal of our committee, to always attend your board meetings. They all work, and they would not be able to attend on a regular basis if I couldn't. So that's why I'm in support of having virtual meetings. I think it does open up a whole range of opportunities for the public to attend without having to travel. California is nearly 1,000 miles long. It could be very difficult if you lived in San Diego to make this meeting, or wherever you're at, if you have mobility issues. So that's all I wanted to say on the matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Any other public comments here? Seeing none, so moderator, would you please open WebEx for public comment?
WebEx is now open on 7B5. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no online requests, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you very much. So, motion on the floor, time to vote. Selena?
President Wong,
Yes.
Vice President Martinez,
Yes.
Dr. Amistad,
Yes.
Ms. D'Antonio,
Yes.
Mr. Hartley, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Rufino,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Villegas.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. So we have 2 more bills. SB 606 and your packet, page 63.
75.
Wrong page. 75.
You'll be happy to hear that the SB 606 language was entirely revised yesterday. And has nothing to do with our board of licensees anymore, so there's nothing to discuss.
Okay, very good. Even better. So let's move on to SB 641, board packet, page 80.
Okay, so I brought this to your attention. This has to do with current situation, current environment. So as we remember with earlier this calendar year with the fires in the LA basin area, there were several executive orders that went out to help alleviate the impact on residents and the people down there. One of those was DCA was very involved in assisting the governor's office, what they could do to help with this. And one of those was identifying any licensees or mainly licensees that were impacted in those areas. The DCA actually went through the list of licensees by zip code, working with the Department of Emergency Services and the governor's office, identified how many licensees for each board and bureau with an address of record in those zip codes. And they established a basically executive order that from January, any licensee that had a renewal fee from January 1st to June 30th of 2025 and had to renew their license, they still had to renew their license, but they could postpone the payment of that renewal fee for 1 year. There were other similar programs that came into be during the pandemic. This mostly would affect our license renewals. It was maybe about 250 of our licensees, and we don't know how many have taken advantage of that. And they could actually choose to go ahead and pay the renewal if they wanted to. So this is more of a formalization that in situations where there's a declared disaster or emergency, that they would be able to have the same type of ability to lessen their impact if there was anything that happened. For that reason, since we don't believe it's a huge impact on our board, of course, who knows what type of disaster we're talking about. Of course, this one was pretty bad. It was also in an area that is the largest licensee population in California for us, and it was still only a very small portion of licensees. So we don't look at this as having a huge impact on us. We think it's good for the licensees if they are impacted when there's an emergency that could happen, especially losing everything that you ever have. We already informally, if someone lost their license, I mean, it's a small thing, but if someone lost their wall certificate in a fire, even if it was their own personal house fire, if they can tell us that, we'll issue them a new wall certificate without charging them. You know, we already take care of people that way. We did that in the other fires without any executive order or any requirement to do it. We just think it's kind of formalizing some of the leeways for that. So for that reason, it really doesn't affect us. We're not going as far as recommending a support position because we're not really sure where this language is going to go since it was just introduced. You'll see that when things just get introduced, we tend to be a little bit more conservative with our recommendations. So we're recommending you take a watch position as introduced on February 19th at this point.
Bell and then Rosanna.
Yeah, I was just reading further and it had some meat to this related to real estate licensees who were trying to scam owners with unsolicited offers of buying their homes for less than fair value and to make it a misdemeanor. I think that's a very good way to prevent abuse and harming the health and safety of consumers and homeowners. But I know we're looking at the other side of the coin, but I think the spirit of the bill sounds like we should be supporting it in some way, given that it does provide some punitive damages against the those who are trying to scam homeowners. And of course, we know what happened down in Southern California. That disaster was truly one of a kind. I think the watch position is, again, another neutral position. I think we should be in favor of keeping a support position just because it brings in that language about punishing those who abuse the system versus the other side of the coin.
Yeah, point taken, Phil. I totally understand. The reason why is you'll see a number of the conditions related to the following: examination eligibility, timing requirements, license renewal, continuing education completion. There's a lot of things on here, most of which don't impact our licensees. I don't want to discount the fact that there are people scamming. There are people scamming from while the fire was going on. Not necessarily in our realm, though we have seen that from unlicensed behavior already, trying to sidestep the need for a surveyor or geologist or an engineer. Contractors Board has been telling me all kinds of horror stories you can imagine has been going on out there. I don't know, though, that this will have any impact on that, because that is more of a complaint enforcement outreach situation, more so than affecting the licensees. I can understand with the Department of Real Estate where that may have more of that kind of an impact. But that was our reasoning behind just a watch position. We would not be probably would not be opposed to a support position. I just don't know if it's necessary from us from an impact point of view.
Christina, was there someone else before I make a comment?
Yeah. So Rosanna and Will and Mike.
Yeah, so right after the fires, I called Rick and I asked him if we were going to be doing anything to help the victims, our licensees that happen to be victims. So I would be in complete favor of, at a minimum, watching it, but I wouldn't be opposed to doing something more than that.
Will?
Yeah, I'm super sympathetic to that point. I'm just kind of also kind of wondering how much of it is getting out of our lane. Because I certainly I appreciate efforts to combat scamming, but if it's not really pertaining to our professional oversight of things, maybe we can do that as personal things and not as a board, because I just kind of feel like this might be a little bit out of scope for us, even though I like the concept.
Mike?
I want to make a motion that we watch SB 641.
Second. Rosanna second. So moved by Mike, second by Rosanna. So we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Okay, let's open to the public comments here in the hearing room. Seeing none. Moderator, would you please open WebEx for public comments, please?
WebEx is open on 7B7. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you very much. So we are ready to vote.
President Wong,
Yes.
Vice President Martinez,
Yes.
Dr. Amistad,
Yes.
Ms. D'Antonio,
Yes.
Mr. Hartley, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Rufino,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mr. Villegas.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. So let's recess for lunch. And shall we come back at 1:30, 1:15? 1:30? I'm hearing 1:30. Okay, so let's come back at 1:30. Thank you so much. So welcome back for our board meeting. The time is 1:35 p.m. And the next agenda item is the executive officer's report. So take it away, Rick.
Thank you. So the rulemaking status report begins on page 93. You'll notice a change this time. Yay, we got a change. So number one on the list is our fee regs. We are still working with DCA budgets and rulemaking advisors at DCA on this. This actually will be coming back to you with an update at the May meeting because we're updating some rationale to support the fees we've already approved for the retired license. So we will be bringing that back again. As we're moving through the process, we're seeing some things that we want to bring to the board's attention when we make changes. So that's the update on that one. And then the other ones are being worked on as I explained right there. Our next one in process or in priority, mainly because it should be an easier one, is the experience requirements for the land surveyors. And then the application references, and then back down to definitions of negligence and incompetence. Potential, we may see another one come in the future related to what we talked earlier about, related to the geology applications, if it's something that doesn't require legislation. So we'll see. We'll see with that. But that's the rulemaking status report for right now. Anyone have any questions?
Board members, any question for Rick? Do you want me to wait for public comments? Or?
No, with this one, go ahead and do separate public comment,
Okay.
please.
So, public comments in the hearing room? Seeing none. Moderator, would you please open WebEx for public comment?
We are open for public comments on agenda item 8A. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand. And for our mobile device users, you may need to hit the ellipses button. That's the ... in order to find your hand. There are 3 different pages and only one of them has that hand button. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you very much. And update on board's business modernization project?
Yes, this is on page 94, 95. There's not a lot of changes in the written form, but I did want to give you some updates on why you're not seeing a lot of changes. Mostly right now, I would at least say for this first quarter of 2025, we've been working on fixes to things where we've encountered situations primarily related to examination results and diagnostics. And it's been kind of a little frustrating for us and frustrating for the applicants also. And with our liaison with the project and staff's help, especially Don, we're getting through those and we're getting them resolved. But that's where pretty much all the resources from the development side has been working on, dedicated to that. So the enforcement functionality that's being developed has kind of taken a backseat lately, which we're not real excited about. The other news we have is I've mentioned the license renewal assessment content that we're working on separately. So not with these developers, staff is working on separately with a consultant on that. That's moving along very good. I mentioned last time we had the one done related to land surveyor licensure. We now have the one done related to professional engineer licensure. Matter of fact, the Rosanna and Guillermo, I think you helped us kind of beta test it. And we got some good feedback from them that helped us make some refinements to it. Now they've just begun work on the one related to the Geologists and Geophysicists Act and regulations. So we're real happy with how that's going. So when we finally get to the point where we can integrate that into Connect, we have the content ready. We've gotten it to the point where we've actually verified that Connect will read the file once it's ready. So those are in the can. We want to get it done before we have to make changes to it, of course, but we're happy about that. The other thing we're doing is because of resources being spread a little bit more thin with development, resources both from DCA project management point of view and a vendor, because there are other boards and bureaus now getting on this system. Plus they have other clients. I don't know why they do, but they have other clients besides just us. We want a little bit faster pace with finishing up. We got a few more applications to finish up. We got the license renewal assessment. We have enforcement to finish up. We are working on setting up a separate contract directly with the developer so that we don't have to share resources directly. And hopefully we can secure that and get it done in a more timely fashion. So we'll see how that works. But that's an update on that. That's where we are. So some lukewarm news and some good news. So.
Questions for Rick? Would you like to move on to a few items and then I'll just make.
Yeah, with that one, let me get through to, let me do B, C, and D, and then we can do public comment on those.
Yes.
Personnel. So personnel, we have 3 positions open. The 2 positions that have been open for quite a while, those are the ones that are slated for elimination through the governor's plan. The other one is we did have Adam White as our senior registrar for a little while. Adam White has left state service. So we now have an open position for a registrar again. The other registrars are off filling in and doing a great job. It's really helping us. They're doing very good with our application timeline from a technical review point of view. We will be we're working on setting up an exam so we can recruit on that and hopefully fill that position sometime this year. We'll see. But that's the updated personnel. And then last, ABET, there's no news from ABET at this point in time. Probably will not receive anything on ABET till the July meeting. That's if we're invited to any reviews in California, we will be notified sometime, usually around July, August. And that's what I have for those three.
Okay. Questions for, yes, Rosanna?
Why do you think ABET wouldn't invite us? I mean, is it just we're an afterthought?
It's not ABET, it's universities. So we have a couple of universities, and I'll call out one. There's one that's in the Central Valley that's well known for engineering and especially surveying, that they never agree to invite board observers. I don't know why. I really want to reach out to them. I'm saying this out loud because one of them knows Mike very well. Yes. If you could ask them, how come they never, in my entire time at the board, which is 17 years now, I know that they've gone through ABET reviews because they will call me and ask for data, but they've never invited us for engineering or surveying programs. And I was just curious why they never do. But it's up to the universities and the colleges to agree to it. So what it is ABET will notify the universities and colleges that, hey, you have a review coming up. It's usually every 2 years or 4 years, my understanding. And they give the option whether they wish to have board observers or not. Every licensing board in state does this, my understanding. We have regular ones that will invite us as board observers, and we love them. We think it's great. It's really helpful for us to determine this is meeting our requirements for education. But there's a few that have never really invited us. So I don't know why.
Interesting.
I suspect there's been quite a changeover at that university in the last 3-4 years. I suspect they're just doing what they always knew. And I don't know really what was happening way back when. But I've always thought we've had a good relationship, but I don't know. I think it's things that fall through the cracks and they don't realize it more than anything. Yeah. But yeah, if you can get that word out, that'd be great. But that's what happened, Rosanna. It's all about, there's some we go to every time they have one.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Any other questions or members? All right. We're gonna open for question or comments from the public here in the hearing room. Also seeing none. Moderator, would you please open WebEx for public comments?
We are open for public comment on 8B, C, and D. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3, and mobile device users don't forget about the ... We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, you wish to continue?
Yes, please. Thank you so much. So Asbach? Mike.
So ASBOG, it's a verbal report, and The only thing I want to add is we finally did receive out-of-state travel approval for us to attend the Council of Examiners workshop, which is next week. And I'm pretty sure Betsy's going to attend that. She has indicated she's still going to attend that. And Josh will attend. He's the current ASBOG exam chair. So we're happy about that. And that's all I really have for ASBOG right now. Josh is very active with ASBOG being the examinations chair. And they're involved with trying to find a replacement examination vendor who is retiring in a year.
Yeah,
So
that's wonderful. Yes. Questions for Rick? Comments? ASBOG? No. Public comments in the hearing room? Seeing none. Moderator, please, public comments.
We are open for public comment on 8F as in Foxtrot. If you'd, or E as in
E.
Echo. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue?
Yes, thank you very much. Next agenda item, NCEES.
okay, there's a couple of items under NCES. So first of all is the May Central Western Zone meeting, interim meeting in Albuquerque. Our out-of-state travel request for this was approved by DCA. It's gone up to agency and governor's office. All signs are pointing to we'll probably get it approved, but it's still being worked on. We did have, I sent out an email about a replacement board member, and Frank's the first one to respond. It'll go. And so now it's Christina, Ollie, and Frank, and myself that are attending. For that, if there has been some stay of the council calls, and they haven't really got into details yet, so there's not a lot I know on any of the committee reports or any of the scuttlebutt. I haven't heard a lot recently, so there should be an interesting meeting. I know there's surveying topics. I know there's structural engineering topics primarily, and there's a few others probably floating around that I'm not even aware of. But looking forward to that. That should be interesting. All three of you are registered, I believe, now, so that's good. And that's all I really have on that. The only thing I'm gonna gripe this publicly, that Dallas and I both work on the land surveyor exams at NCWS. And they sent an invite recently to work on a public lands exam, same day as the Central Zone, Western Zone meeting. And fortunately, Dallas is able to go, but and work on that. But I had to gripe, and then I talked to the Western Zone vice president, who's also a land surveyor out of Washington. Apparently, I'm not the only one. He griped too about that, because you take the Central Zone, the Western Zone, and any surveyor board members or any surveyors associated with that, that's predominantly the public land states. And so, yeah, there's a little bit, but it's a good thing. We got representation. We're good. There's other licensed surveyors in the state not associated with our board that are also attending, so that's good. It was a little gripe session I had.
Well, thanks for the information. Now we know that schedule conflict, but I'm glad that you work it out. Yeah.
Unless anyone has any specific questions about the Central Zone, Western Zone meeting.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take public comments.
Okay.
Board members? Questions for Rick about NCEES, Western Zone meeting? Okay. Public comments in the hearing room? Seeing none. Moderator, would you please open WebEx for public comment?
All right, we're open on 8F as in Foxtrot for real this time. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, so NCWS annual meeting is going to be in New Orleans in August 19th to the 22nd. I mean, what better time to be in New Orleans?
Someone who lived there for 5 years, I'm going to tell you the weather is perfect. And what's the name of the restaurant? Oh, God. Moscow's.
Moscow's. You had the M right. Yeah. They need to know the funded delegates by May 1st. So that's why I put it on this agenda, even though it's quite a ways out and we haven't even, we're working on the out-of-state travel request on that. The annual meeting, we can have up to 3 funded delegates, just like the other meeting. But we also, in addition to that, we can have up to 3 first-time attendees. So if you've been appointed to the board within the last 24 months of the date of the annual meeting, and you've never been to an annual meeting, you can go as a first-time attendee. At San Guillermo, you went last year, right? And then we also have a 1 law enforcement program attendee that's funded for just the law enforcement those couple days. So I know that I think according to the roster, Cliff, Kaisha, and I think Furman, you'd barely make it. You guys are eligible for the first time attendees. So if you, that's only at your choice, you know, it doesn't take away from the other 3 funded delegates. Cliff has already indicated, since he wasn't going to be here today, that he would like to be able to go. So you guys need to decide who of the funded delegates, a normal funded delegate, you'd like to go. And we assume for the law enforcement, we would send someone from staff for law enforcement on that.
Any takers?
For the funded?
Funded, for the 3 funded.
If nobody else signs up, I'll throw my name in the hat.
Well,
I volunteer as well, since I'm also serving on the committees.
Right. So
I'm checking with my wife.
how much head start did I give you guys? About 3 days, right?
yeah, right.
Just saying, Mike.
As I always love to go, just
So
because.
is there a backup?
Yes, well, so Frank, Rosanna, Mike, is checking with the wife, and I always love to go because I'm on a committee also. And you indicate something?
That's right between my birthday and Marina's birthday, so that's a no.
That's a no, okay.
Where else would you like to spend is beautiful downtown New Orleans in August?
I don't want to go to the beach.
Oh, there'll be a beach there.
I already know where she wants to go.
That's right, at the portrait frame. That's right.
Okay,
So we have, looks like it's a maybe for Mike.
Okay,
and
so I'll go with Frank,
Christine.
Rosanna, and Mike, unless Mike can't go, and then Christina. Is that like the plan?
Sure.
Okay. And I just want to remind you, Cubby, remember, I've notified NCWS about you being an emeritus member.
All right, I mean, put me on the list.
And so you have the option as emeritus member in the future. So,
Make me double back.
so, okay,
Double back up.
okay.
I'll get that Moscow's.
Yes. So you got the names?
Yeah, it's on a recording, so we got it.
Okay. So any other board member comments? Seeing none. And public in the hearing room? Any comments? Seeing none also. Moderator, would you please open WebEx for public comments?
We are open for public comment on 8G as in golf. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you very much. Updates of outreach efforts.
Okay, so in addition to the outreach report, which is on page 96, also, if you haven't already received an email, there's the subscriber list. We posted our winter board bulletin today. Was that this morning, Selena, or was that yesterday?
Yes.
That was this morning. So the new board bulletin just got posted this morning on our website. Also, the spring one, probably, we're trying to catch up. We got a little bit behind. So the spring one was probably maybe a month behind at the post. So we're going to try to get caught up here. But just want to let you know that that's out there too. If anyone has any questions about the outreach report.
I have a question.
Yep.
So it looks like the, the hits on Facebook and tweets, or on X, the
Xers.
number really, they're not really that high considering the amounts of licensees we have.
Yeah.
And so, I'm just concerned, express a little concern that how, whether it's about the platform issue or whether it's about what's going on about, the seems like a lower number of the hits.
I think it's a couple things, but I think predominantly is Facebook is more of a personal social type of thing, less of a professional. I think X is just weird. And who knows what kind of things you're going to get on X anymore. We are investigating. I don't know how far we've gotten into the investigation with LinkedIn. Has been brought up by you guys before. We're investigating to see what we can do with LinkedIn. We may get more with LinkedIn because it's more of a professional work environment type of thing. But traditionally, we've never really, this is kind of good numbers for us.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We get more web views than we do anything else.
Yes, that's for sure.
It's with social media, unless it's LinkedIn, people don't spend a lot of spare time going, I'm gonna go check it out on the board. They just don't do that. I don't do that. So.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Questions for Rick? Nope. Public in the hearing room? Seeing none too. Moderator, your turn.
All right, we are open once again for public comment on 8G. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you very much. So the next agenda item is actually President's Report or Board Member Activities. So I have reports on participating in different types of meetings, including NCEES Finance Committee meeting, Western Zone, NCEES Western Zone Nominating Committee, and I went to one of the NCEES State of the Council meeting. Also participated in the quarterly DCA leadership meeting on March 24th. So lots of meetings. And Kobe?
Some of you who attend our next meeting will hear a longer version of this, but I just, since this is my last meeting in Sacramento, I just wanted to thank the staff after 12 years of being on the board. It's been an unbelievable experience for me over these past dozen years, and this board has just an absolutely fantastic professional staff, and it's just been an honor to work with all of you. So those of you I don't see in May, Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Kobe. We know how special you are. Yes.
It's a good word.
Yes. Neutral enough, right? Yes, Mike.
Um, to the extent this is an inappropriate comment, I'll lean on you. Another surveyor and I were talking about a situation. Two surveyors walk into a bar. For those of you on the board who don't know, one of the things that we are tasked with doing as surveyors is when we set a monument, we're supposed to affix, I don't remember the exact language, but we have to set our tag. That's kind of the way we refer to it. Whether it's a plastic plug set inside or on top of a rebar or inside a pipe, or a brass disc could be wired to a pipe or set in concrete. Somehow we have to put our license number on this monument. Well, you can call several companies across the United States and order any LS number that you want. Somebody did that and set monuments in Southern California with my number on it. I'm only aware of one monument, but I have never worked south of Kern County, so it was not me, and I don't think any of my people sold this on the black market. Somebody just ordered my tags and set them. There ought to be a law, kind of. I wonder if, and this is Chris, I mean, I know we can't have a discussion about it, but maybe we could put this on the agenda and seek public, I don't know, next agenda or in the future.
Can you be specific about what's the law you?
Well, could there be some mechanism by which you have to prove you're a licensee before you order tag numbers?
Oh.
I mean, if it's a company that's operating in Arizona and a California law or board rule gets passed, I don't know that that would have any teeth or would be followed or anything else, but maybe, I don't know, maybe a discussion is in order or maybe not.
When and if it's appropriate during agenda times or whatever, I can probably have a chat with you about that.
Okay.
I don't want to go into anything if it's not part of a agenda topic, but that's been addressed many, many times.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Oh.
We'll have an outside discussion, and if you feel like that's something that needs to be brought up more, we can talk about that.
Fair enough.
Good. Discovery or, good topic. So thank you. Any other board members want to report?
I don't.
Guillermo?
I also attended the NCES State Council meeting and the DCA Quarterly Leadership meeting.
Thank you.
I can attest the fact that Guillermo is a very active VP.
Yes, and we appreciate that. Yes. All right. So seeing no more, do we need public comment on this one? All right. Any comments, public comments in the hearing room? Seeing none. WebEx moderator, please.
We are open for public comment on agenda item 9. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you. So the next agenda item is nomination committee for 2025 board president and vice president. And so I actually would love to make a suggestion and see if board member likes this suggestion. Since Kobe, is leaving us, and he was the previous board chairs, and he's so special to us, and I would like to nominate Kobe and Rosanna as our nomination committee member. You can have a difference.
It's technically your choice.
Is it my choice?
As president, it's your choice.
It's called not, well, it didn't say that.
That, it's yours, it's your choice.
It's my choice.
It's just very diplomatic of you to,
But Madam President, we enthusiastically accept your suggestion.
Well,
A chance for a last bit of mayhem.
yes, all right, all right.
Can learn from the best.
Wonderful. I'd like to open for board members to have any comments, suggestions. All right. Thank you very much. I don't need to have a motion, right? Need public comments? All right. To make Chris happy too. Right? Yes, following the procedure. So any comments regarding the nomination committee in the hearing room? Seeing none. Moderator, would you please open WebEx?
We are open for public comment on agenda item 10. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you very much.
so, first, before I was gonna make a comment on that, I'm just gonna comment. I'd like to hear you say, no, I don't want to wish to continue with the agenda. And just to see what he does. So Kobe, as always, Kobe and Rosanna, if you need any assistance from me as you seek nominations for next year, just let me know. Reach out to me.
Thanks. Awesome. And our board is in your hand, our future. Wonderful. And thanks for accepting the nomination. Next agenda item, approval of meeting minutes. And we need a motion.
Are you on the microphone?
Your mic, but you need to be on the
Mike, you need to
microphone.
be on the mic.
I move that we approve the February 6th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Second? Felt second. All right. We'll have a motion on the floor. Any other public comments or comments from the board members? Nope. In the hearing room? Seeing none. WebEx.
We are open for public comment on agenda item 11. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Can I say no?
You can.
Yes, because we're moving into closed session. Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, I've done it again. So, Selena, please.
President Wong,
Yes.
Vice President Martinez,
Yes.
Dr. Amistad.
Yes.
Ms. D'Antonio,
Abstain.
Mr. Hartley, Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Rufino,
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez.
Yes.
Mr. Villegas.
Abstain.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. So now for real, we go into closed session